The 360 flip is arguably skateboarding's #1 favorite flatground trick. A tray flip is like the basketball equivalent of a slam dunk, or a compliment from a stranger. It's always welcome and always celebrated. When performed correctly, the 3-bomb's visually pleasing symmetrical appearance of rotating 360 degrees on both axes, combined with its intermediate difficulty level, make the trick, invented by Mr. Mullen in the late 80s, a unanimously respected plywood maneuver in the skateboarding community. Tray flips are the most frequently mentioned favorite trick in the Bunce Rapid Fire, and is the most frequently landed offensive and defensive maneuver in the unanimously praised flatground competition. All jokes aside, there have been over 700 total successful attempts at 360 flips from all 13 seasons, beating out runner-up kickflips by roughly 50 as of this video. With the popularity of 360 flips in mind, how do we determine which skater is the best at executing the trick? Using the poll feature on Instagram, this question was answered by tallying votes between 2 skaters at a time, until all 185 unique skaters who landed a clean tray flip in a battle were compared at least once. The first pair of skaters who I personally believe would make a good starting point for determining who has the best tray flip in a battle ended up being Ashad Ware and Versace Plug, because they both have unique and respected styles and landed the trick perfectly. Over the course of 24 hours, 71 votes were cast for Ashad and his objectively perfect yet effortless 360 flip, while 37 votes were cast for Versace Plug's similarly effortless yet a little more stomped and steezy version, making Ashad the winner in this pairwise comparison. Ashad was compared to other skaters and their clean trays on flat until he lost the poll. As far as who Ashad was compared to, his opponents were mainly selected based on exaggerations of style or above-average hygiene that I could remember off the top of my head, like Aramis Hudson's lingering back leg and one of Shane's hyper-clean attempts. Ashad managed to beat out both Aramis and Shane, but Luan stormed the stage with a light-speed tray that popped like a pimple, dethroning Ashad as the new benchmark for best tray flip. Luan would go on to remain victorious in the one-on-one comparisons against 16 skaters, earning himself almost 1,700 votes in the process, and receiving 900 votes against him, or votes that were instead cast to the skater with whom he was compared. Of the 16 skaters that lost to Luan, Burberry Aries' undeniably clean tray flip only earned 22 votes against Luan's hefty 128, making the spiky-haired Cardi B cohort the lowest-ranked tray flipper that was directly compared to Luan. On the other side of the range, Tom Asta and his squeaky clean front foot catch back foot dangle tray had the most votes earned by the 16 skaters who lost against Luan. But he only lost by 2 votes, with 66 votes barely putting Oliveira in the lead. Luan won 16 one-on-one polls and tied once with Miles Silvas, where 90 votes went to each skater. The wet-ass tray bomb exhibited by 2023 Sodi Miles Silvas was also complemented by speed that no one else except maybe Dennis Buznitz displayed. But without the height to match Luan's, Miles would have to settle for a tie in this case. It wasn't until a 2012 entry from Matt Miller appeared, when Luan would lose the crown as the competitive flat-ground tray flip king. Matt Miller might be most well known for his real estate success.
My name is what? My name is Matt Miller.
But Matt Miller also happens to be a pro skater, most relevant in the mid to late 2000s, that is capable of injecting every humanly possible molecule of pop into a 360 flip and land it so well he single-handedly put Mr. Clean into retirement. Back in the early 2010s, the Barracks had a quick-cut editing style, so what you're seeing of Matt Miller's tray flip in Season 5 is the entirety of the sequence that made the final cut. Therefore, we have no idea if onlookers at that particular Round 1 game against Corey Kennedy were audibly impressed, or if Matt Miller simply pushed around and regularly blessed his environment with a tray flip that would stand the test of time and be considered better than Luan Oliveira's best flat-ground 3 flip. Matt earned 4 more votes than Luan, taking 94 versus 90, and in turn became the new standard for the best flat-ground 360 flip in a game of skate at the Barracks. Luan's reign as the tray king with 1,683 votes would be outshined by Miller's, who went on to tally himself a whopping 2,143 votes against 35 skaters, more than double the amount of skaters Oliveira beat. Because Miles Silvas tied with Luan, it was only fitting to compare him to the new champ Matt Miller, and the result was Miles losing with 35 votes against Matt's 68. As a side note, in the interest of time, moving ahead in the voting process, Matt would only be polled against skaters that had not been compared yet, meaning because Miller earned more votes as the better tray flipper compared to Luan, it's assumed that Matt would also earn more votes than every skater that Luan beat. The least votes earned by a tray flipper that went head-to-head with Matt was the oldest of the three McClung brothers, Taylor, who could only convince 9 voters to choose him over Miller, even though Taylor's tray flip was clean, fast, and published in higher resolution. Aside from Luan's loss with 90 votes against Matt's 94, the second most votes earned in a matchup that Matt won was against Chris Cole's Hunter Orange Beanie tray from Season 4, where Cole mustered up 48 votes and Matt won with 54. Arto Sari, whose tray flip was exceptionally well executed as far as the front foot catch is concerned, only lost by 1 vote with 40 votes to Matt's 41, making their matchup the closest head-to-head that Matt won. An additional detail to note is that while Arto's 49% against Matt's 51% of the votes was the closest head-to-head, Sean Malto and Jimmy Carlin earned more votes than Arto, 43 and 41 respectively, but lost to Matt by a bigger margin. It seemed as if Matt could potentially be the undisputed tray flip king of the tournament. I mean, if you're receiving more votes than Luan, a skater mostly known for his flat ground prowess, who the hell else is left to contend? Turns out there were 2 skaters that eventually out-tray flipped Matt, first with Aurélien Giroux's display from Season 12, and next by his American counterpart Chris Joslin. Giroux received 51 votes, which was more than Matt's 43, and admittedly was a surprise to me considering the angle at which Aurélien's tray flip was filmed. Up until Giroux's tray flip was presented, the previous entries were almost exclusively full frontal angles with the entire skater in the shot. Aurélien's tray flip was filmed at a front angle but also at a slightly rear-facing point of view. Undeniably flawless, Giroux's stomped tray flip is fully controlled, and voters may or may not have grown fatigued from Matt's lengthy dominance, opting for a return to the back foot dangle regardless of a hard-to-ignore squeak from Aurélien's pivot cups. Joslin, a now legendary 360 flip hucker, beat Matt Miller 52-41, but was immediately outvoted by Aurélien, losing in a relatively close 56-65 matchup. Chris's well-controlled, timeless-style tray flip in a match deep in the tournament, this one from the Season 11 semifinals against Tom Asta, is one of the harder outcomes to easily understand. The reason being that both Aurélien and Chris's 360 flips are clearly well done. But it could be that Aurélien got the edge over Chris by having his filmed in brighter lighting, making it easier to see in detail, whereas Joslin's more dimly lit version, thanks to the finals night ambiance, isn't as easily visible comparatively. Aurélien would not be able to enjoy a long-standing French rule as the new Flatground 360 flip king, because a second, improved showing from Shane in Season 8 would prevent Giroux from progressing, the results coming in at 83 votes for O'Neill and 51 for Aurélien. Shane's defensive 360 flip in Season 8 Round 2 checks all of the boxes that previous winners fulfilled: speed, pop, cleanliness, filmed at an optimally flattering and well-lit angle, and in high resolution. The foot dexterity needed to land a tray flip as effortlessly as a shot in Chris, but with pop that is in the same ballpark as Matt Miller and Luan, is a skill very few skaters besides Shane O'Neill are capable of utilizing on command in a game of skate, and consequently, Shane would emerge on top of a head-to-head poll against 80 different skaters. On the low end of the voting polls with Shane involved, Felipe Mota and Ryan Pierce were both only able to accumulate 5 votes against O'Neill, even with clean tray flips. Michael Sommer had a beautifully aggressive and smooth entry from Season 10, but still lost by 2 votes to Shane, earning 40 votes to Shane's 42, which kept the Australian skate messiah in control of being the benchmark tray flipper, at least until Canadian Steez master Wade Desarmo entered the ring. Desarmo's one and only battle from 2011 back in Season 4 Round 1 against Dennis Buznitz included a high-quality tray flip. Donning a tapered yet still noticeably long DGK ghetto gown, Wade's defensive tray flip earned 53 votes, and Shane's earned 44. Describing Wade's tray flip as perfect is an understatement. Desarmo might be the only skateboarder that can claim to have more control of a flip trick than Shane O'Neill. Front foot catch, landing bolts, effortless execution, smooth rollaway, stoic expression before, during, and after. Dissecting Desarmo's 3 flips shows there's virtually not a single freeze frame with a visible imperfection, from head to toe, It's like Beyonce, it's almost too good. His shoulders don't jerk around with any unnecessary movement, and his feet stay within close proximity to where they were planted prior to popping. By the time Wade beat Shane, O'Neal had racked up over 5,700 votes in his favor, almost tripling the total amount of votes Matt Miller received under his rule. But for Wade, he stayed undefeated against all 44 remaining skaters until all clean tray flips from the tournament were measured, which means, based on this particular pairwise comparison, Wade Desarmo's single instance from almost a decade and a half ago in a round 1 loss is the #1 best version of the most popular flat ground trick in a match. While Wade was on top, Justin Dryson's 4 votes against Desarmo was the lowest number of votes earned by any clean tray flipper in the polls. The most votes anyone could earn against Wade was Luan's 43, just to see if sentiments remained consistent in the comparisons, which they did when Desarmo beat Oliveira's 43 by earning 52. The most votes against Wade by a skater who had never won a head-to-head was Mason Silva's butt angle from season 13, earning 31, but ultimately losing to Desarmo's 43. Because Wade was only compared to roughly half the skaters Shane was compared to, his total earned vote count was correspondingly half as big as O'Neal's, tallying over 2,500 votes versus 5,700 respectively. Wade did average less votes against himself per matchup than Shane did, with 14 votes against him per comparison versus O'Neal's 18, suggesting Desarmo's tray flip was convincingly better than anyone he was compared to. It is also arguable that by the time Wade was the tray flip leader, the strongest tray flippers had already been compared early in the exercise, which should be considered when trying to make the case that Desarmo's tray flip crushed its competitors more heavily than other previous leaders. Overall, 16,616 votes were cast across 193 matchups over a 1-month time span that began on March 23rd and ended on 4/20 Blaze It. Every matchup had an equal 24-hour time frame to receive votes on an Instagram story poll. While this exercise did a relatively good job at determining by popular vote who is the best tray flipper in a flat ground contest, there's obviously a bigger world out there than the barracks warehouse for 360 flips to be measured. Wade Desarmo's tray flip in the barracks is the best, but is it the best 360 flip on flat ground to ever be filmed? According to voters, the answer is no. Because Wade's 360 flip in Barcelona from his 2006 KO Corp DGK Its Official part earned more votes than his own tray on flat in Season 4. This opens up a Pandora's box of sorts because the amount of tray flips filmed on flat ground outside of the barracks is much larger than 185 different skaters and spans almost half a century. From my perspective, Wade's Its Official 360 flip is better than his own barracks version, but the argument I would make for giving the contest entries by all the previous skaters merit is because those 360 flips were all done under the pressure of a game where your attempt is first go, meaning the fact that 185 skaters were able to land a clean 360 flip in one try is impressive in its own right. It could be that Wade landed his Its Official tray flip first try, but that would also mean he landed the nollie backside 5-0 before and the kickflip nose grind after first try as well, both of which he also did perfectly. And given the history of filming street parts, landing tricks first try is not common, and unless I'm severely mistaken, the Its Official tray flip was the best out of multiple attempts to get that whole line into the video. In other words, comparing 360 flips from skate parts is not the same as comparing 360 flips from games of skate. Regardless, Wade's 360 flip from 2006 beat out some notable trays on flat from legends like Tom Asta, Dylan Reeder, Mark Suchu, Tony Silva, Shuriken Shannon, Antoine Dixon, PJ Ladd, and Mark Appleyard. The 2019 Primitive Encore 360 flip on flat from Tiago Lemos, however, did receive more votes than Wade's 360 flip. At the time of making this edit, the original goal was to find out who did the best tray at the barracks, which was achieved. The Pandora's box mentioned earlier, comparing every flat ground 360 flip ever filmed, goes beyond the scope of this video. But if there was a 360 flip better than the one Tiago did in 2019, whether it be from Josh Kalis, Jason Lee, hell, even Jake Hayes, or one of the thousands from YouTube tutorial videos, We may never know. What we do know, aside from the fact that Jocelyn's El Toro attempt definitely doesn't count, is that the best 360 flips are not always from the most competitively successful flat ground skaters, but are performed by a select few who spent the time to mold the trick into something style purists can really appreciate. 360 flips aren't the hardest, definitely not the easiest, but they sure as hell seem to be one of, if not the most popular trick of choice on flat ground. And according to the 16,000 votes cast by an average of 90 voters over 200 different polls, Wade Desarmo and Tiago Lemos are the best of the best tray flippers captured on film. Speaking of film, an important factor in measuring these 360 flips, and any visual representation of skateboarding for that matter, is how well the skating was filmed and edited. Brandon Westgate's 360 flip from Season 9 might have received more votes and potentially even beat Shane if it weren't filmed from behind. And Chad Timtim's 360 flip from a million years ago in Season 1 is not a great angle, but appears to be an above-average execution of the trick. This means that factors outside of the skater's control need to be just right in order for them to enjoy their status as the best, including the filmer's ability to center the skater perfectly in the shot during a successful attempt, and the editor making sure to pick the flattering angle in the final cut. Because the results might not have panned out the way they did if Wade's tray flip was depicted from the rear, unless we were lucky enough to witness some movement back there.